Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Appreciate you jumping on. Before we get into pricing here, stick around on today's episode. We've got some great clips from the Ondo Summit, including an interview with David Schwartz, which we're going to give you pieces of. And man, are things moving fast in the crypto industry. It just seems like every day there's more and more news. So we're going to jump into that. Stick around for it. Let's take a look at pricing first. Bitcoin sitting at 97,752, up 1% over the last 24 hours. Kind of staying status quo here in that 97, 98 range. Ethereum struggling still with the number 2 spot, sitting at 2,700 after being at about 3,700 for much of the time. XRP sitting at the number 3 spot, sitting at $2.46, and that is up 6.42% in the last 24 hours. Tether at the number 4 spot, and Solana sitting at the number 5 spot, also down pretty significantly. Sitting at 196.92, and that is actually up 3.51% over the last 24 hours. Let's dive into some news here over on X. Starting with Jake Claver coming from the Ondo Summit. Here he says, the wizard at work. He's retweeting Cowboy.X here, who says Ondo Summit February 6th, and he's quoting Joel Katz here saying institutional adoption will happen before mass retail adoption. Now take a listen. He says a lot more here, but this is a great interview with David Schwartz.
There's high friction right now where people are poorly served. For almost any technology, when you're trying to figure out where you can get the traction, you look for people who are poorly served by the existing technology because you don't have to be perfect to get their business. You just have to be better. Exactly. And the worse it is, the less good you have to be better. And I think areas like real estate, like venture capital, private equity, things like that are just very poorly served. Another thing that works surprisingly is the opposite end. It's actually both ends work better than the middle. So on one end, people are very poorly served, there's very high friction. On the other end, where believe it or not, where people are very well served and there's very low friction, you can actually get traction because if you can save a very small amount of money, that's better. So for example, tokenized treasuries, you've heard a lot about tokenized treasuries. Those actually work pretty well right now. You might think, well, why would that be an area? And it's because of that. It's because if there's a $3 transaction cost and you can push that down to a fraction of a penny, that's actually a lot because the margins are so small. If I'm only making 2%, you're charging me a couple of basis points. If I can save you a couple of bucks, that actually does matter. So I think it's like the two ends. As far as like what people should focus on, if we're going to turn to the corner to mass adoption, user experience is going to be absolutely critical. The biggest problem with mass adoption is when the users have to understand the details of what they're doing. If you look at any technology that's gotten mass adoption, whether it's the internet, computers, cars, it's when people don't have to understand the details of the technology that it works the best. And so it's getting that user experience. Interoperability is a big part of that. If it's like my money's over here, but the thing I want to do is over here, and I really have to think about that, that's too much work.
It's not worth that energy and effort.
And that's probably why institutional adoption is going to happen before mass retail adoption, because institutional adoption, that the complexity is not as big of a blocker.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Constantine, do you have anything to add to that about?
There you go, straight from the wizard's mouth, Joel Katz, talking about the opportunity, and it's going to happen with institutional in a big way first, before mass retail adoption happens. Now, on a lighter note here, this guy does great videos. Notfinancialadvice.Crypto. This is just a fun one, folks. Enjoy it. He says XRP has come a very long way from the doghouse to the White House, from an army to a family. We had a front row seat to the biggest story in the world, and it's only getting started. Take a listen. This is just good stuff here. Take a listen.
fuck? Homie, I prayed for peace, not for police. I was naive and thought the SEC didn't lie and deceive him. And what the fuck? Billy, we know your bosses, know the agenda that caused this. You gave either a pass and slowed our adoption. Now we done run out of options. Man, this is fucked up. See, the SEC's run by corrupt thugs who say come in and talk, you can trust us, and then use what we say to obstruct us. They pretend to protect and instruct, but when we ask them for guidance, they just bluff. Making statements all vague so the meaning can change, and it's easier for them to crush us. Now I say this sincerely, this ain't a conspiracy theory. I hope you hear me. The SEC clearly has conflicts of interest, it's honestly eerie. If we didn't have all of this proof, we'd probably regroup and start a new chapter. Instead, we got him in conflicting in 4K, meeting with Simpson and Thatcher. Gary, why you seem bitter? Is it because when you look at your Twitter, you see the people uniting together to take down a plan that you thought would come quicker? Why you leave us all confused without a single clue and shamelessly sue a Kardashian? I know why. So you reach a dumb audience who doesn't care about what's happening. Gary, you're shady. I'm telling all of my people. You tell them. To be appalled by the evil. See, they have elite connections. They get more protection, and we call that illegal. When I brought up John Deeden, your heart started beating and Jay and Bill shivered. Cause everyone in this picture got richer when that fucking speech was delivered. XRP wasn't issued in a shady ICO promotion. It was in fact created by 3 men who made it before Ripple even fucking opened. Now you say it's a security, but it's code, and we only control 4% of nodes. And the tokens in escrow are sold on a schedule that any fucking body can be shown. Gary, I don't know what you thought. You in denial of the proof that we found, and it's so profound. Gary, I don't know what you want. To get promoted or let us all drown. You be such a clown, Gary. Ain't got time for your bullshit. Everybody knows you're corrupted. Ain't got time for your bullshit. Everybody knows what is coming.
Oh, just absolutely beautiful stuff there. He actually explains the case throughout that funny video. He just does it in a very sarcastic way, which is awesome, in my opinion. Coming in here from Mr. Man, he says, demo of the Finternet. This is how value money is transferred in real time by tokenizing real asset, how ledgers such as XRPL, XLM, XDC, and Algo allow for seamless interoperability through the standard set using ISO 20022, which Ripple is a managing body in the standard. So take a listen to this gentleman. Pretty good stuff here.
I feel Nandan works extremely hard, so I'm going to programmatically attach a use case that he can only use this for entertainment-related purposes like tickets, but you could attach many other use cases. I mean, you could really explode this to programmatically doing government payouts, programmatically choosing, instead of expecting a farmer to have a title deed, as the governor spoke about a few days back, you can programmatically control the end use of money, all on common universal infrastructure, not purpose-specific siloed systems or one app that does this. And so in this case, I'm transferring 2,000 rupees. I authenticate in real time, 2,000 rupees has been transferred. And this playground is completely open sourced. You can see in this case, we integrated with one ledger, which was Solana, and the transaction shows up that you can actually take a look at, right? Now, there's a lot more work that needs to go into this, but this is a basic flow of money transfer that's been made programmable. The second step, as you heard Nandan speak about, was an individual wanting access to a loan against a property. And as we all know today, physically, those property records get locked in a locker. And so, again, some entrepreneur creates their own property application. My prop is an example of that. I go ahead, register with them. I decide to get started. Now, because in the Finternet, you have the ability to add verifiable credentials, all your traditional property documents, ownership certificate, no objection certificate, valuation records, can get digitally attached. So I'm giving my permission to share these records.
So that's probably a little hard to follow on here as you're watching this, so I'm going to stop it there, but it just shows the ease of how some of this technology is going to be utilized. So you can certainly find that under Mr. Man's account. Let's go to Digital Asset Investor here. More from CoinDesk Live. here. He says XRP is on the cusp. Another interview with David Schwartz. Let's give you a piece of this because this is better stuff.
If you're just watching, if you're just great to be here. You know, Andy and I have been talking all day about this convergence of the traditional financial world and the crypto world that has been building, that both of us have been such a part of for the last so many years. Talk to me from your standpoint, from building Ripple for so long, from going through the ups and downs of Ripple, being here today, what it means for you.
It's tremendously exciting. I feel like we really are on the cusp of a mass institutional adoption, both of DeFi and of other blockchain technologies. I think this is also like one of the key obstacles to mass retail adoption. A lot of people in the space previously thought that retail adoption was like the big wave, but I think institutional adoption is a precursor. You have to connect to where people are. You have to go to where the value is. You can't build a new financial system from zero, ignoring the existing financial system where everybody's money is, where all the value is, where the real world is, trillions of dollars in value. You can't just say, oh, forget about all that. Let's just build something new over here. That doesn't work. And so I think this wave of institutional adoption over the next year or two is going to be what's going to pave the way for mass retail adoption. And then we can deliver on those promises. Like, we all want to bank the unbanked, but like, the unbanked, like, they have to be able to spend their money to buy groceries and pay their phone bill. And so we have to have that institutional connectivity. And I don't think there are any obstacles. I think that's and I think this conference shows that.
You guys have shown a tremendous amount of resilience over the last couple of years and helped score some of the biggest wins from of the industry against those who doubted it. XRP is in one of our flagship indices and was a top performer. It's been an exciting couple of months. Like, how has the perception of the firm changed from inside and outside? A lot of people are taking a look at Ripple that really maybe hadn't before. How are you thinking about conveying what the company does to people who are looking at it for the first time?
Yeah, it has been a huge difference. 4 years ago, we had what I called the worst Christmas ever when I found out that the SEC was suing us.
Yes.
And a lot of people thought that would just be the end of our business, and it could have been. And I'm glad to say that the industry eventually rallied around recognizing the regulatory overreach, and I think things have gotten obviously a lot better since then. More recently, the changes in the United States over the past couple month or so have just been unbelievable, and it has unlocked business in the United States, but also business overseas. I think a lot. I didn't realize this until the change happened. There were a lot of other.
I'm going to leave it there. Lots of great stuff. Unlocked business in the U.S. over the last month since Trump has taken over, and it's only going to get better, in my opinion. Here, coming in from Jay Claver again, he says this would be huge if approved. He's retweeting Cointelegraph here, who is sharing the news. The SEC has acknowledged an amendment for NASDAQ's 19B-4 filing to allow in-kind creations and redemptions on iShares Bitcoin ETF. And you can read the specifics there. If approved, he's saying this could be huge for investors and for the industry. So great stuff from there from Jay Claver. Coming back in from Mr. Mann. He's saying here, during the BIS conference today, they have officially stripped Bitcoin of its unit of account title. Bitcoin will struggle in the peer-to-peer exchange space. So this is becoming more and more of a conversation that Bitcoin is just not great for peer-to-peer exchanges. Take a listen to this quick exchange.
The time will permit, so I'll be very selective. Yes. First question, and then we'll get some questions from the audience if time permits. But the Bitcoin was cited as an example that was introduced to address payments and other shortcomings that were perceived in the market. But in practice, it's more of a speculative investment instrument. Do you see a future in which cryptocurrencies and decentralized finance play a larger role in the payment space?
So unless they're tied to the unit of account, they're not going to make any sense, right? The volatility is too high.
There you have it. Unless they're tied to a unit of account, the volatility is too high. So no good for Bitcoin. Thank you for jumping on, and we will see you on the next one. Do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button.